you're making the argument that the Keplerian method, if we could call it that way, there's an approach to science here that you're singling out and identifying, is actually not dead, that it's alive and well, and that it is a potentially fruitful approach to astronomy and to other disciplines in the future. Help us understand what you mean by that. How can this guy who's so often credited with, getting the sun's position right, but dismissed otherwise as a mystic, how can his view of science in the world overall really inform science in the future?
I mean, he was so convinced that what we're viewing around us in the material world is the manifestation of a transcendent mind, that is what motivated his grand quest. And that's how he came up with these remarkable mathematical laws of planetary motion, in what many scholars have argued was long before the time these things should have naturally come about. So if we take Kepler's approach to nature in respect to expecting deep rationality and expecting that the human mind has been designed in such a way to be able to tap into that rationality and unlock secret after secret of nature, then we're going to be fruitful in the ways that Kepler was, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Having this deep-seated expectation that there is a grand logic behind all things that have been made, and that we are fit to traipse through the weeds and identify the grand scheme of things, the grand archetype, as Kepler referred to it, that is the pattern for God's magnificent creation. That's how I understand it. And I think that has been bearing out beautifully in the contemporary intelligent design movement, because where purpose and intention and rationality is expected, you hit on the truth much faster than you do if you assume randomness and chaos to be the fundamental thing. A good poster child example of this would be the whole debate over past decades about junk DNA.
Yes.
So, of course, the majority of the human genome is just the flotsam and jetsam that's left behind in the messy process of blind biological evolution. And the intelligent design advocates were like, no, wait a minute. We just haven't quite yet figured out the purpose and function of all of this non-coding DNA. And it turns out that the design advocates were right. They expected rationality and function in design, and that turned out to be what was the case. So that's just one good example of the fruitfulness of the expectation that there is an underlying rationality to the material realm.
Yeah, we now have books titled things like The Myth of Junk DNA, because we've discovered that the non-coding sections of the genome are like, I think Dr. Meyer relates them to an operating system.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this is Windows, guys. This is what runs your body. The proteins are the things that it runs, but it has a purpose. Like junk DNA is not nearly as big of a component as naturalists would tend to predict. And that's a really important point, because when you apply that to astronomy and any other discipline, you get past this, I guess, the so what question, because so often Christians will, rightly, I think, look at the observations of the intelligent design movement and go, okay, well, great. That shows, again, that God exists. And it is important to establish God's existence. There are really strong arguments to be made from the things created. So strong, in fact, that one Paul of Tarsus says that people don't even have an excuse because they're so strong when we look at that. But I think oftentimes we fail to go beyond that. We fail to take the next step and say, okay, God exists, but what else can that theistic or that design-centric set of assumptions about the world reveal to us? And it sounds like Kepler, they revealed a great deal in astronomy, and for biology, they're unmasking great genetic mysteries that are just now coming to light.